out for 32 years, and parking is a nightmare. And from what I've been able to discover in the research I've done, I've spent quite a bit of time working through some research channels. The plan is to build a $12 million, that was the price tag at the time, $12 million multi-story parking structure to solve the parking problem. That structure is designed at a cost of $30,000 per space to park cars. And that was a price tag a while ago, and it doesn't include planning and permitting and the rest of it. So, you know, once it finally happens, 5 or 10 years out, the price tag is 15, 20 million. And thinking about this and thinking about this transportation crisis, and I really agree, you know, with what you were saying, Aaron, that it is a larger issue than just bicycles or cars. It's a multimodal transportation issue. How can we connect up all these pieces of transportation? And it seems to me that it's high time to take our economics department and all of our other departments and start putting together an HSU master plan that talks about multimodal transportation tied in with the whole community. Because there's 7,000 students here, the population of this university has a better opportunity to change the dynamics of transportation in Humboldt County than any other group in Humboldt County does. There is no other group in Humboldt County that numbers 7,000 that can move things and usher things and create change. This is where that can happen. And transportation hasn't changed, and to put money into continuing to create places for cars is insane. And to my observation, the only people working on this solution are green wheels at this point. I don't hear of an alternative plan for the university. And it seems to me that we need to take the lead here and not have a parking plan, but a transportation plan. And rather than spending that money on, you know, $30,000 a space, we could go right now to the Air Quality District here in Humboldt County and get a grant for $30,000 to $40,000 to do the initial study to get this transportation planning process, just the initial concept study. It was that source of funds we used to come up with alternative plans for bikeways between Arcata and Eureka that haven't been built yet, but it has created the momentum towards discussing those options and looking at how we're actually going to build that bikeway, hikeway between Eureka and Arcata, which everybody's clamoring for except for a few railroad enthusiasts. We could take a small portion of that 12 to 15 million, say 3 million or 4 million, and create express buses that were running to the north and didn't wander through McKinney-Fold for 2 hours, to the south and to the east, not just to Blue Lake, but to Hoopa and to the Native American regions. We could put that money into a dedicated bike pathways around Arcata. I mean, it's amazing to me that Davis, for 20, 30 years, has been so awesome with these kinds of things. And here we are in liberal Arcata, Humboldt County, and, you know, they've got some bike routes in Arcata, but guess what? You all know if you tried to bicycle, it's not connected up well. It's still a lot of dangerous places. So we got to fix the system right in Arcata, improve the bus surfaces to all the outlying areas, connect up the Hammond Trail to Arcata and to the bikeways around the bay and all the way to CR, connect up the Annie and Mary bike trail out to Blue Lake, and then we start having this connectivity. And then the last thing is we need bike lockers for bikes and equipment and showers for people so that they're encouraged to buy a bike and can shower before class. It's not fair that just the athletes and the forestry department have showers. Every department ought to have lockers and showers. And that would cost, what, $1 million? And then we create tax breaks and economic incentives, back to Steve's stuff, for anybody doing non-motorized use. You know, talk about carbon credits, non-motorized credits. For every day you don't use your car, you get to write that off on your taxes as a non-motorized credit. So when we start shifting this $12 to $15 million plan that is obscene and put it into a transportation plan, we will find that by shifting a few million of that into real solutions right now, we probably won't have a parking problem for a long time out into the future. And we won't have a multi-story parking structure on this campus. So
I want to just take the opportunity real quick to respond to, thank you so much for bringing that stuff up. I just want to take this opportunity to talk about the current Green Wheels projects to move in this direction. We've created an initiative called Jack Pass, which is a universal transit pass for Humboldt State students. Right now, you can ride the AMRTS, the Arcata Mad River Transit Service, for free with your student body card. That's funded through fines and forfeitures. Those are the fines people pay when they park illegally. What JackPass is a proposal to give that same access to the county-wide buses, so that you can go into Eureka to do errands, so that if you live in McKinleyville or Eureka, you can commute here for $15 per semester. And this is an example of basically using this tremendous thing we have here, which is 7,000 people coming to the same place every day, to establish a critical mass and give the bus system the ridership it needs to be a better system that people want to be on. So it's coming to the ballot in May. Please vote for it. And we're going to need a lot of support and passion to get the word out beforehand. So please get involved with Green Wheels. Second, the HSU Bicycle Master Plan is online, and we're taking comments, and we're going to submit it to the President's Parking and Transportation Advisory Committee sometime this semester. So please check it out and send us your comments if you want to be heard.
Good.
This is not a speech, but I had lunch today with a 92-year-old man, and I told him I was coming to this meeting tonight, and I asked him if he'd seen the movie, and he said no, he hadn't, but he knows all about it because he's heard and he's taught, he's read. And this man is 92 going on 50 in terms of his activity, and he's a very wise individual. And he told me all that Gore is planning and all that these people are planning here will never go. And he said, and he chronicled through history some of the times when mankind has been faced with various problems, some of which have been chronicled by Gore himself, and have not acted. And he said, half the people are trying to solve the problem, but there will be the other half will be fighting it. And the other half will be fighting it intensely through probably through inactivity and through devious ways. My challenge to you is to remember that statement. And my response to him was, if the French can throw cigarettes out of restaurants and bars as they did this year, anything can happen.
Anyone else? Yes.
I have a question. You talk about one of the ways that we can alleviate global warming is buying locally and organically. And I just wanted to say that there are a lot of people who can't afford to do that. And how would you advise those people to make better decisions when they can't afford to buy locally?
That's a good point, and I thought you were going to ask why is that, and I'm guessing then that you understand why buying local food and locally produced things has less of an impact on the environment than buying something grown halfway around the world.
Right.
That's a good point, and I think part of it is also sort of the market thing. As the more people that start demanding organic goods and organic foods, as that market grows, it no longer becomes a little niche market and becomes the mainstream. Then I would guess that the prices would come down. But it's not always an option for everybody. And we had a similar discussion like this 2 nights ago in the bottom of the J, the Jolly Giant Commons. And there was actually quite a bit of discussion about social justice and environmental justice, which hasn't really come up tonight, but is a huge issue. And that what you're saying right there is, in fact, most of the impacts of global warming will disproportionately affect those who have, the least in terms of power and money. And they're also the people that have the least ability to, I went out and bought a Prius. I'm not rich, but I've got, enough of an income that I could make that choice. Somebody else that doesn't have that choice. They're going to buy the Hyundai or they're going to buy nothing. They're going to buy a used whatever from, some years back that's dirty and eats a lot of gas. So the one thing I would say is growing a garden in your own, at your own house, that takes time and so forth, and that's not an option for everybody. And if you, it takes space. If you're in an apartment, that may not be an option. Though there are some, there is a small community garden in Arcata. So you're right. That is a challenge. But even even making choices when you go to the store and buy your produce, if you buy things at this time of year, if you buy broccoli and lettuce and artichokes as opposed to buying papayas or mangoes, for instance, the broccoli and the lettuce and those types of vegetables are actually grown pretty close by here. They're probably grown, the lettuce was probably grown in Watsonville or something. If you're buying it at Safeway maybe, or maybe it was. I mean, if you go to Murphy's, it may have been something grown. Murphy's or the co-op, something may have been grown locally, even if it's not organic, perhaps. But so there still is. You can still make some choice there. But you're right. It's not. All of these options aren't open to everybody. But I think the more that those options become more of the mainstream, they will be open to more of the population.
What do you think, Steve? Do you think this is going to change in the economic foreseeable future?
I think that you raised a very good question. I think that there are two pieces to this that are challenging, not intractable, but they're challenging. And one of them is the growing inequality in our society, where we have differences between low and high income people in terms of being able to afford higher quality things, including local and organic, that are higher quality. The other part of it is the stuff that Thomas Friedman talks about the world is getting flat, which means we're globalizing. Now, if we ever get to, and I think we are, where we have effective carbon pricing, we may see local things more on an even playing field, because the transportation cost element of shipping things all the way around the world won't be as cheap, because they're cheap because a lot of the cost is externalized. But once again, when you think about that dynamic, we're talking about who pays that price most heavily: lower income people. So I think that we've got to resolve income inequality and economic justice issues while we're addressing these other issues at the same time. We can't leave people behind on that. So that's my position on that.
I'd like to piggyback off of that. I think that the world around us is dependent on movement to reach communities such as this to pave the way